Selamat datang and welcome to all participants to this webinar, Internationalization Efforts, the Strategies and Initiative in Becoming a World-Leading University. I am Ras Afirina Razzi from Putra International Center, iPutra University Putra, Malaysia. It is a great pleasure for me to be your MC today. Before we started, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You will have the opportunity to submit text question to today's presenter by typing your question into the question pane of the control panel. You may send in your question at any time during presentation. We will collect this and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. I would like to remind participants that your microphone will be muted at all times. Only the videos of the panelists, the moderator, and the MC will be displayed throughout the session, and we hope to end this session at 4:45 p.m. Malaysian time. The Google link will be forwarded to you before the end of webinar for attendance and e-certificate purposes. You will be granted proof of attendance administered under Google Forms at the end of this webinar. I would also like to remind you that this webinar will be recorded and uploaded to our website and YouTube for future reference. If you have social media accounts, please do not hesitate to follow us at Putra International Center on both Instagram and Facebook, and use the hashtag Putra, iPutra, and Internationalization to record your thoughts and experiences with us. You may find our social media information in the chat box. Ladies and gentlemen, Turkey, Thailand, and Malaysia have had long-standing relationship and ventured into many collaborations, such as student and staff mobility, dual degree programs, international student recruitment, joint research and publication, etc. In this webinar, the speakers from Turkey, Thailand, and Malaysia will be sharing their experience and knowledge on how universities develop their strategies to become one of the world-leading universities. So now, without further ado, I would like to introduce moderator for today's webinar, Professor Insinyur Dr. Hasfadina Chekman, Deputy Director, Putra International Center, and a professor at Department of Biological and Agricultural Engineering, Faculty of Engineering. Her expertise is in bioenvironmental engineering, wastewater treatment, and agricultural waste engineering. She graduated with a Bachelor of Chemical and Process Engineering in 1999 from the University Kebangsaan Malaysia and a PhD in Civil Engineering of Geosciences in 2006 from the University of Newcastle upon Tyne, UK. She was a professional engineer for the Board of Engineers, BEM, from 2020. She was a vice president for Malaysia Society Agriculture Engineering from 2017 to 2019 and professional member, American Society of Agricultural and Biological Engineers since 2009. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to Professor Insinyur Dr. Hasfadina Chekman. Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ras Afrina Razi, for a brief introduction. Good morning to those in Turkey. Good evening to those in Thailand and Malaysia. Marhaba, Sawadi. Welcome to UPM webinar entitled Internationalization Efforts, the Strategies and Initiative in Becoming a World-Leading University. I am honored to moderate this session and having this opportunity to have 4 scholars here today. This 2 hours webinar will be a platform for us to anticipate and share their experiences on internationalization efforts, especially with regards to higher education institutions in Turkey, Thailand, and Malaysia. Joining us today are Associate Professor Dr. Ismi Muhammad Said, former Vice Chancellor International from University Technology Malaysia, Professor Dr. Vuland Kafazoglu, Director at Digital Transformation Office at Atatürk University, Turkey, Associate Professor Dr. Abdul Latif Ahmad, Director, International Relations Center, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, and Dr. Rampi Akat, Director at the Office of International Affairs and Global Network from Chulalongkorn University, Thailand. Ladies and gentlemen, today internationalization has become a fundamental characteristic of the world's leading university. By positioning our higher education institutions at the global level, world-leading universities can attract the best students, the best faculty members, and education resources. World-leading universities can also produce the best talent or human resource and cutting-edge research that benefits society. Therefore, internationalization activity is crucial. In Malaysia, over the last decade, the involvement of the higher education student has increased to 70%, and currently we have 1.2 million students enrolled in 20 public universities, 435 private universities, 105 community colleges, and 36 polytechnics. In Malaysia Higher Education Blueprint 2021 until 2025, one of the main agenda is to increase the inflow of international students to 250,000 by the year 2025. Currently, the international students in Malaysia are almost 132,000, and we need to double the numbers within 2 more years. By 2025, the Malaysia Higher Education Ministry aims to place one university in Asia top 25, 2 in the global top 100, and 4 in the global top 200. The challenge is there. So today's webinar is a great opportunity for us to share our point of views. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the 4 panelists. We will start with the Associate Professor Dr. Ismit Muhammad Said. Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Ismit is the former Pro-Vice Chancellor, International of University Technology Malaysia. He was graduated from Kagoshima University, Japan in his bachelor, master, and PhD, which is specializing in marine biology. Prior to his appointment as Pro-Vice Chancellor, he served in various positions at the UTM International Office from 2009 until 2022. Among the positions that he held were Regional Manager Japan, Director of International Students, and Director of Global Strategic Engagement. During his tenure as Pro-Vice Chancellor, his duties include providing advice and leadership in international matters towards achieving the university's strategic goals. He is also actively involved in many international networks. He is currently the director of the Executive Committee for the Asia Technological University Network, ATUNet, chair of ATUNet Steering Committee, chair of the Operational Board of the World Technological Universities Network, and executive director of the Board of Management of the Swiss Asian Learning and Teaching Network. Despite his busy schedule in administration, he is actively involved in research. Dr. Ismit also a member of Impact and Restoration of Water Bodies Research Group, UTM, and specialized in the field of water quality management and biological assessment of water bodies. Before we pass the control to our first panelist, let us enjoy the corporate video of University Technology Malaysia. The ball is rolling. Let's watch the UTM corporate video.
University Technology Malaysia. Innovative, entrepreneurial, global. A global award-winning university in engineering and technology that coexists in the community to contribute to mankind. We invest in laboratories and facilities, empowering our people to solve life challenges. We nurture innovative minds through research and teaching because innovative minds drive competitive and innovative research culture. Life problems are brought into the labs to test our inventions against imperfections. Our facilities enrich our students' life because conducive environment triggers creative minds. We empower students to be active contributors in the ecosystem. UTM embraces inclusivity and diversity. Together, making a difference, our entrepreneurial talents continue to improve the quality of life. We reach out to where it matters, the society. Treating water for consumption. Our research products and services have made a difference to many lives. We provide engineering solutions for sustainable development, and our engineering solutions uplift the quality of life and well-being. Our experts are mobilized to affected sites to respond to calls for help. We are proud to serve and make a difference. UTM strives with total commitment to attain excellence in science, technology and engineering for the well-being and prosperity of mankind. UTM, prospering lives.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Smith from University of Technology Malaysia. Over to you, Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Prof. Let me see if I can share my slide first. Can you see the slide?
Okay.
All right. First of all, I'd like to thank you, UPM, for organizing this event. I think, and also thank you, Prof. Asfalina, for that kind and generous introduction just now. And I would like to say also Assalamualaikum and hello to my fellow panelists, Dr. Latif, Prof. Ram, and also Prof. Bulan from Malaysia, from Thailand, and from Turkey. Well, we're gathered here today, I suppose, to talk about internationalization. And as mentioned by Prof. Hasfalina just now, it's among the important things that we discuss commonly at universities in Malaysia, and also I believe in universities also around the world. Hold on. All right. I'm from the International Office, of course, and I also believe that the other panelists are also from the International Office. And also the audience, I believe there are also many from the International Office. And for those of us who do the business of internationalization of higher education, I think we know, we have heard the name and probably read about Professor Jane Knight, who has written a lot about internationalization of higher education ever since early 2000. She's a professor at the University of Toronto and done a lot of research on, as I said, on several dimensions of internationalization of higher education. And I believe that internationalization of higher education has been one of the most critical factors in shaping higher education in the last 3 decades at least. But historically, if you look into how it started or where it actually began, you can trace back internationalization and globalization as far back as the time of during the Silk Road, from the times of Marco Polo, perhaps, when travelers from different cultures and nations traverse the globe, doing trade and commerce, interact with each other, interact with people from different culture and different nations. So it's actually not something new. But of course, today we're talking very specific about internationalization of higher education and also about universities and higher education of institutions. Well, I would like to say that there are reasons, and there are many reasons, of course, about why we want to internationalize our institutions or internationalize our higher education. But I can focus on these 4 items: political, economic, academic, and also social and cultural. And I think this is also quite common. You can get this from the references from the internet. In Malaysia, especially, internationalization of higher education is about politics too, because matters such as university performance and ranking are very often discussed in the parliament. In the political rationale, internationalization also brings together leaders, researchers, policymakers within the region, across the region, to corroborate and exchange ideas, thus providing perhaps a platform for benchmarking. In terms of economics, well, on the top of my head, when thinking of income generation, internationalized universities can attract international students, good international students. That is an income generation, and perhaps making that university able to achieve financial sustainability. I'm also talking about international research grants. Of course, it's also about opportunities of learning other cultures, creating an awareness towards diversity and also tolerance for others. And as far as academic is concerned, it can create competition, healthy competition, this spirit of competitiveness, exchange of ideas can increase quality of teaching and also enhance research and knowledge. However, as we are all, almost all of us, I hope, here are academicians, we must truly understand why we are here. We are here basically because of the students. Whether we are talking about internationalization, we're talking about academic income generation, it's basically grinds down to the students. That's why we are here. We want to provide the best for them. And what we're doing here is for the students. And naturally, we are talking about internationalization. We're trying to develop the students are our product. So what we're trying to do is we are trying to produce global citizens. And we can only produce global citizens if we can equip them with the proper global mindset. And I think this is very important, not to lose focus, not to lose sight on why we're doing this. We want our students to be able to be a part of the future, be a beneficial part of the future, contribute not only to the local community, but also to the global society. And this becomes the attributes for the product, our students. Right, but aside from students, we must also understand that internationalization goes a long way. We are also talking about global issues here. And it's very important for us in the international office to be able to understand, to comprehend the bigger picture. There are many times when we do strategic planning for the university. We come up with the management plan, the action plan, and we cascade it down to the faculties, to the professors, to the schools, to the departments, and it all becomes, at the end, numbers. Sometimes meaningless numbers that we have to achieve, number of papers we have to publish, number of students that we have to have, number of collaboration and partnership, amount of international research grant, and so on and so forth. It all grinds down into numbers, which is, of course, important to measure, but it's also important for us to connect the dots. How does those numbers connect to the bigger picture? To become a leading university, it's not just about numbers. A leading university must be able to contribute to the global, to the world. We must be able to contribute in many ways, in producing students, in producing knowledge and research to make the world a better place to live in. And I believe that's the meaning, the real meaning of a leading university. So we internationalize higher education, we come to a status of a leading university. Students are important, but we must not forget to connect the dots to the global issues happening around us. Of course, there are many internationalization strategies. Basically, it's not a secret, but I would like to look into these three things: global partnership, international collaboration, and of course, education, global education and exchanges. And there are many other strategies, so-called strategies, but given the short amount of time, let's focus on just these three things. If a university is able to make these three things work properly, I believe we can also achieve the true sense and purpose of internationalization of the institution or internationalization of the higher education. These are basic things, and I think most of us would probably be aware of that. Another thing I would like to share is what we are doing at UTM. I'm not going into the details, but I think at UTM, the current strategies that we're applying focus on these three things: engagement, visibility, partnership, research excellence. Hold on, I can't see it on my, okay. Global education, students and staff. With regard to visibility, I think it's very important. To become a leading university, we must make people see us. We have to show the world what we have, and we have to show the world what we are capable of. And equally important is engagement and interaction with partners. MOUs and MOAs should not be just documents collecting dust on the shelf. Each partnership must have active, meaningful engagement and real collaboration. Research excellence. Well, research is almost everything. Great minds and ideas cross borders to collaborate and create research excellence. And I think that's the ultimate aim for us, especially being a research university, to achieve that research excellence and to do that with our partners. Global education is important, of course, to attract international students. Globally recognized curriculum, high quality education are the things international students look for. And I think in many universities in Malaysia, we can say that we are quite successful in that. Many of our public universities, our RUs, are doing quite well in getting international students. Students, of course, is the key just now, as mentioned. These are our product. These are the product that we want to put out to the world, that we hope that will be a benefit not only to our local community, but also to the global society. And also staff. I mean, in UTM, internationalization is not just for the students, it's also for the staff. We get foreign international professors coming in, of course, at that higher level, but we also have staff at clerical level being able to converse, being able to talk, to communicate with international students, with international community easily now compared to many, many years ago. So these are the internationalization strategy that at the moment is at UTM. And from that, I can probably focus on partnerships. Partnership, as I mentioned just now, is very important. And at UTM, we try to model our partnership and collaboration into these three models. Model one looks into the bilateral agreement, one-to-one, the normal one. Model two looks into UTM joining an alliance or a network. You sign one agreement, but you make friends with many in the network, people of the same interest, same common ground. Model number three is when we try to make friends with friends in higher places, higher ranking universities. There's a lot that we can tap from that friendship, from that partnership. We also gain visibility through that. And I think this is also something which is very important for us to internationalize ourselves. So these are the three models that we work on. During the pandemic, I think we did one thing which was quite successful. We did it quite aggressively. We call it the virtual international engagement, where right on the onset of the pandemic, somewhere in April and May, we were already communicating with our partners and possible partners. We communicated with them online. We actually utilized, we optimized the use of our online system, communicating with our partners, setting meetings. And I think if you look at the graph here, I think this is from 2020 to 2022, we were able to communicate with about 100 over universities and institutions, not just existing partners, but also new partners. And it became a strategy for us since the pandemic and even until now. With regard to the actual partnership that we have, many people will come and ask me about how many international partners we have. I would say there would be around 300 from 50 to 60 countries around the world. We try to make this partnership active as much as possible. If it's inactive, then we probably set it aside not to renew the partnership. And as I mentioned, in model number 2, it's about network and alliances. This is very important for us. This is, like I said, the numbers are bigger, the mood is different. You become more active if you participate in activities in a network. I'll talk more about this later. And making friends with university in higher places. These are universities in the top 100 that have sort of like agreements, MOUs, MOAs with us. And I said, these are not just agreements collecting dust on the shelf, but these agreements have actual work going on. All right. And international students, yes, one of the key things to become an internationalized university, then you must have international students. I think UTM has been quite successful in getting international students. We were worried about dropping numbers during the pandemic, but actually the numbers did not drop that much. We still have around 5,000 plus international students from 80 countries, which is quite diverse. But of course, we would like to see more diversity here, because as you, in Malaysia or in UTM, perhaps the students mostly come from certain regions of the world. So we would like to expand it more to include also students coming in from the Western countries. And during the pandemic, of course, we are worried about the mobility programs, but I think this is similar to also other universities around the world, where they convert the program to an online programs, and we call our programs OGCs, or online global classrooms. And this has also provided a good response from our partners. And if you look at the numbers, it's been doing quite well. These are numbers during the 2020. Of course, it includes also mobility students joining the OGCs, or online global classroom, but the numbers have been quite promising. And we do still have some online global classroom going on, even though the pandemic is almost over, hopefully, because it gives us the a wider dimension to collaborate with our partners. Hold on. Where our students come from in terms of mobility, I think the partnership that we have in the region or in the world actually provides us with a variety of students coming in. And you can see that the inbound students and the outbound students are more or less going into the similar countries. And this is one of the benefits of having partners around the world. Right, alliances and network, as I mentioned just now. This is important because this is where you get a smaller group of partners. You can work together with them. You have more common interests, more common ground, and there's a lot of sharing going on. There's a lot of family atmospheres going on in the network. In UTM, we are not only participating or joining a network, but we also established our own network. We call it the Asia Technological University Network, established in 2016. So it's still 6 years old. It's still a toddler by age, but it has grown from leap and bounds. And I think this is one of the main vehicle for internationalization at UTM. And today we have around 31 universities from 11 countries across Asia as our partners. I would say partners in the sense that there's a lot of sharing going on. We do a lot of events. We have a lot of activities. And in ATUNet, we are able to share in the sense that we co-host this event. We co-host these activities. For example, we've done the International Staff Week, which has become our signature event over the last 2 or 3 years. And I think during the pandemic, we were able to share this with several co-hosts in Asia. So we did the first one on the first day here in UTM, and then we passed it on to Thailand, and we passed it on to Brunei, and also to the Philippines, and also to Indonesia. So it's different in my opinion, in my experience. When you talk about partners, a bilateral agreement partners, a one-to-one, and partners in a small group such as the Asia Technological University Network. And we share that platform. It's more about not just UTM trying to become a leading university, but we are very happy to share our experience or expertise with other universities, and we're also tapping a lot of knowledge and experience from our members. And this is just for this year. As I said, we have grown from leap and bounds. Every year is a busy year for ATUNet. Starting from this year, there's a whole range of events that we have done. And even in the pipeline, there's a few more. And we're also planning for bigger things in 2023. Yes, I believe a network, an alliance is crucial. And I found out that during the pandemic, when most of our friends or most of us are in lockdown, we are able to share a lot of things within the network. And we come very closer in terms of friendship. And I think, in my opinion, the ATUNet is a very relevant and good vehicle for internationalization at UTM. Well, I think that's about it. So again, the outtake from my presentation now, if you ask me about what is a leading university, we have to ask ourselves, a leading university is a university that contributes to the global community. It's not just about numbers. We have to connect the dots, connect the numbers to the real issues. That's the main thing. And only by doing that, we're able to call ourselves as leading universities. All right. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so very much, Dr. Ismet. I must say this is a very comprehensive sharing points. And you also mentioned about it's not just the numbers, yeah. Internationalization is not just numbers, but the main essence is actually to fully equip the students with a good quality education so that they can contribute to the community. And I would like to congratulate as well UTM, yeah, for your great success, yeah, having ATUNet. And by having ATUNet, you'll be able actually to get more friends. Yeah, the alliances help you to actually achieve more networkings. So with the 31 universities and 11 countries as a member, so I believe that you are going to expand more, yeah, in terms of the collaborations internationally. Right. So to our audience, I hope you have received some useful information from our panelists, our first panelist. Then now let's move to our second panelist. So let me introduce our second panelist today, Professor Dr. Vulen Kasavoglu. He has received his bachelor from Electronics and Communication Engineering from Yildiz Technical University, Istanbul, Turkey in 1994, master from Electrical Engineering, Illinois Institute of Technology, Chicago, USA in 1998, and PhD degree from Electrical and Computer Engineering, University of Illinois at Chicago, Chicago, USA in 2005. He has been with Atatürk University since 2005. His research interests are mainly in the field of communication, signal, image processing, networking, 5G, 6G, and IoT areas. Aside from his academic duties, he has worked as the director of the International Office between 2016 until 2018 and at the Digital Transformation Office. Before we proceed with the presentation, let us watch the Atatürk University Corporate University. So now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Professor Dr. Vulen from Atatürk University, Turkey. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this nice introduction. Let me see if I can share my screen. Second. So, okay. I think you can see it. Again, thank you very much for this, for organizing this conference and inviting me as a participant. And I would like to send my regards to the panelists as well as to the participants. So, from Turkey, Atatürk University, I would like to introduce first the internationalization, our view of internationalization. Then I would like to give some brief information about our university. So this is our motto, moving forward in service of life. Okay. If you look at the drivers of international collaboration, especially for the academia, research benefits we see it first. In this research benefits, we have direct and indirect benefits. Of course, other drivers and political motivations and government directions in the driving forces of internationalization, but the self-motivation, I mean the academic motivations, comes in first. Now, we can talk about lots of benefits with the internationalization and collaboration, international collaboration. So among from them, there are possibilities of learning from each other, sharing knowledge and experience, and then it's possible to broaden the research base. The financial burden, especially with the joint funded projects, it's possible to decrease the financial burden on one partner, maybe using the other partner resources more. And then in the other scenario, in the other next collaboration, it can change, vice versa. It has cross-cultural benefits at scientific and personal level. For example, if I didn't come to Malaysia, I wouldn't get to know the durian. It's a very interesting fruit I got to know over there. So as a personal level and especially at the scientific level, it increases the cross-cultural benefits. So it can provide access to the other universities' facilities, and through that, new science and technology and more capacity can be obtained. All right. Okay. There are, of course, the challenges in establishing these possible collaborations. Institutional differences in mission, vision, and values makes it difficult sometimes to make these collaborations. The governance systems and culture, and especially when you look at throughout the internationalization effort, the cultural motivation or the cultural close. Being a culturally close makes it easier to establish a collaboration possibility. If you have very different cultures, then it requires more effort to establish these collaborations. Sometimes the universities don't equalize in research, teaching, and compensation, so this makes it difficult to make these collaborations. Competition between institutions and establishing communication and the increased complexity in establishing communication also makes it difficult. We can go on in this list, accreditation issues, especially tuition and fees. For example, it's a big challenge at our university when we want to send our students to other countries. The most important thing to overcome these possible challenges is going through building up mutual trust. Trust is the most important thing. If the initiative can build up a trust, then it's easier to build up the collaborations, international collaborations. And the objectives, it's easier, it's better to decide on objectives together. And sharing knowledge is important, information is important, and most importantly, sharing the responsibilities. So if you are developing a collaboration with other universities, Can you hear me now?
Yes, let me continue, Prof.
Sorry, I lost my internet connections.
Yes, that's one of the challenge.
Yeah, that's one. That's one of the challenges.
Okay, continue.
Right. Let me share it again. Yeah, this is one of the challenges of online conferences.
Yes,
Yeah,
agree.
right. Okay. All right. Like I said, it needs to be the collaboration needs to be followed. So again, administrative support, two-way visits, good personal relationships. I mean, even it doesn't matter if it's a student, if it's an academician, or if it's a administrative person, administrative staff, or an important person. All people has common points. All of them are human, so it requires building up a good personal relationships to go with these collaborations on strong grounds. And the most importantly, communication is the essential point of these collaborations, internationalization strategies. Through effective communications, agendas can be generated, understood, clarified, and then you can further go on from there. Now, I would like to give some information about Atatürk University and the internationalization strategies of our university. It's founded, the Atatürk University founded in 1957. It's located in eastern part of Turkey. It's a land-grant university built on 4,300 hectares area. We have more than 3,000 academic staff and more than 470,000 students. But I point out that some of them are open education students. So if you look at the education part and the research part, we have both strong in those fields. Graduate studies through 7 institutes, through 23 faculties. We have undergraduate studies and through 31 programs, open education. I believe introducing the university, when you find a platform like this, it's important to increase internationalization as well. So this is one of our strategies. So we have research projects funded by Atatürk University, also funded by TÜBİTAK, our national institution for the projects. And we have Technocity in our university, and then we have a big research center, Eastern Anatolia High Research Center, and open for international research. Modern research infrastructure for researchers, also government-funded big budget national projects. Eastern Anatolia Observatory, actually it includes the biggest observatory in Europe. Okay, now I'll give some information about the rankings from different rankings. From QS rankings, we are in 12th in Turkey and around 1,000 in the world. And according to, I'm sorry, the previous one, let me go, yeah. Times Higher Education Rankings, the title was not correct. The previous one was that. Now the QS rankings, in QS rankings, we are in the 1400 and the 24th in Turkey. And this is a URAP, it's an international ranking governed by the Turkish institutions. And over there, we are 12th in Turkey and around 1,000 in the world. Now, when we look at the research profile of Atatürk University, around 1,800 academicians, and then 7 graduate students per academician on average. 250 PhD students graduates per year, around 1,000 published Science Citation Index paper, and around 130 of them includes international collaborations. 40 projects are completed per year, and not from our in funding, outsourced funding. Around $6 million outsourced funding throughout these projects. 11 international collaborative projects per year, $1 million for international collaborative projects. And then we increased our patents potential actually in the last years. 6 national patents and 3 international patents application are established. Now this is just to give an idea about our infrastructure. This is the research center, Eastern Anatolia Research Center, and these are the labs in it. If you have interest on those, you can see. Just to give some information on the screen, I'm not going to name them by one by. So you can see we have clean rooms over there, as you see. And some of the infrastructure, I just included some photos. And this is the distribution of our students, as you can see, 40,000 bachelor students. And then if you include 4,000 open education, we go up to 407,000 students. And this is our distribution of our international students, around 2,400 international students. And then this is the distribution of the countries. As you can see, geographically close countries will have more interest at our university. And these are the main programs that we apply as the strategic approach to internationalization. We have joint graduate programs. Now, one actually with UPM, University of Puerto Malaysia, joint programs. We have with the Europe Erasmus, also with the Erasmus Plus with the other universities. And Mevlana, again, European country program, bilateral agreements, summer schools, winter schools. Through Taiwan, we have a special program, PAX, their program actually, we sent our students. We have international students, we do a special exam for them to enter our university. And we have also with the United States, we have a program called Education Abroad. Now, this shows our international collaboration map. We have over 60 countries, more than 300 agreements through internationalization process. And we lead some consortiums. One of them is Eurasian Silk Road Consortiums. It's not that we are just member of them. I just included that we are leading, the ones we are leading. And the other one, Turkic Universities Union, and the other one, Central Asian Universities Union. I've included the faculties over here, and the purple ones actually are the faculties most active in the internationalization efforts. So it's easier to continue with the collaborations with those faculties, like engineering, the faculty that I'm in also, veterinary science. For example, our veterinary science faculty is an internationally accredited faculty. So those are our faculties that leads internationalization efforts. And these are just the view of our graduate programs, and the distribution of number of students on that graduate programs. You can see we have a science and social science faculty, natural science and social science university. So you can see an almost equally distributed students. And also from our faculty, I wanted to share the number of students, electrical and electrical engineering, the one that I'm in. This is the science faculty, the numbers, you can see them. And we have, from Malaysia universities, we have existing agreements with especially these 4 universities. UTM and UPM, we have more solid grounds on international relations. And as a last slide, I wanted to talk about a few cultural issues of our city. This one we call double minaret madrasa on the top left. That's actually the oldest university on Anatolia, and there is little classrooms in those. And on the top right, you see the Palandöken Mountain. It's a very nice ski center and internationally known ski center. Lots of people comes during the winter time to ski. And on the down left side, you see our ski jumping towers. And on the down right side, you see a big waterfall in Erzurum. And if you are hungry, you can eat our jar kebab. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Sama-sama. Okay, thank you so very much, Prof, for the insightful presentation. So I can see that the university has a very diverse programs. Yeah? You have 23 faculties, including
Right.
one of it, Faculty of Letters. This is first time I've seen a Faculty of Letters. Is a language? Faculty of
This
Language,
is,
right?
yes, that's correct.
Mm,
Faculty of Language.
Faculty of Language.
But Turkish, it includes Turkish language and other cultural things.
I've never been to your university yet, maybe in the future. I just returned back from Çukurova universities and I've been to Istanbul, but not
Right.
yet to Atatürk University. Yeah,
We would like to have you here one time.
so yes, Izrum, yeah, waterfall is very beautiful. So yeah, maybe next year, yeah, if there is any grant for me available
Yeah,
for
we do.
research attachment.
Yeah, we do have programs. Actually, we have hosted some of our academicians from UTN. Yeah, Prof. Kemal from Engineering University, Engineering Faculty. Actually, he was here. We have programs. Actually, we have funds to host academicians from other universities. So we provide the funding. It's just to host those people over here.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I believe that there are many other questions from the participants, but we will leave this, we will address some of the questions later.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Prof. Bülent, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Now, yes, we will proceed with our third panelist. Associate Professor Dr. Abdulatif Ahmad is the Director of the International Relations Center, UKM Global, and an Associate Professor in the Center of Research in Media and Communication, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, University Kebangsaan Malaysia. He obtained his PhD in Communication Studies from University of Queensland, Australia. He is currently the Malaysian Regional Vice President for the World Communication Association. He is also a Fulbright alumni. His research interests include intercultural communication and internationalization. He has led research grants and consultancy series projects from Toshiba International Foundation, Ministry of Youth and also Sports Malaysia, Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia, Share EU, and the Central Bank of Malaysia. Before we proceed with the presentation, let us watch the University Kebangsaan Malaysia corporate video.
There is a university that inspires futures, the futures of the young, the future of our way of life, the future of this nation. And the future begins by nurturing possibilities. future is here, now, where the possibilities are endless.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's welcome Associate Professor Dr. Abdul Latif from University Kebangsaan Malaysia. The floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson and Moderator. Good morning to some of our international delegates, or maybe some even good evening. Thank you to University Putra Malaysia for inviting me to be one of the panelists for your webinar titled Internationalization Efforts, the Strategies and Initiatives Becoming a World-Leading University. My presentation today is about strategies and initiatives of internationalization done by UKM, and it's something to do with how we are dealing with a post-COVID situation, if there is such a word as post-COVID. To begin with, since we have some international delegates here as well, I would just like to share some insights with regards to University Kebangsaan Malaysia. We are 52 years old this year, and we are one of the 5 research universities in Malaysia, and also that we are currently ranked at number 129 in the QS World University Ranking, at number 33 in the QS Asia University Ranking, and currently with Times Higher Education World University Ranking of Asia, we're at number 138. And we've achieved 5-star ranking in various QS categories such as employability, teaching, facilities, internationalization, and etc. Some of our student figures here for you to know. We've got over 29,000 total students, 17,400 undergraduates, over 11,000 postgraduates, and over 2,600 international students here in UKM. And this is the view of University Kebangsaan Malaysia. And what you see is just a small snapshot, maybe about 10% of what lies within the university. It houses itself within a forest campus, and the greenery, if you're interested in viewing the greeneries and living with nature, then UKM would be an excellent choice for you to choose as a destination to study as well. Now, the key objective of my presentation today is for all of you to get a bit of understanding on what are some of the re-strategizing efforts done by UKM post-COVID-19 and what we have achieved and what we plan to do in the future as well. Now, COVID-19 changed internationalization completely. I remember in the first 2 years of the situation, I was invited to talk about how we dealt with COVID-19 and how we dealt with the changes. But that was mainly about survival during a period of change. And then last year, it was about continuity. It's about ensuring from survival that we can continue and still provide certain form of expectation and provide the excellence in education to maintain the quality, to maintain relationship, to maintain international agendas. And now we've come to reach a point of sustainability where how do we go on with this forever? How do we take a notch up? And how do we incorporate the new ideas, the new norm into what will be just norm in the future? So we're looking at about changing ways of doing things from the physical to virtual adaptability and how we need to know that this is already the future. We couldn't be all just purely physical itself. We have to incorporate the new knowledge that we've learned over the past 2 years. Sustainability of relationship with partners. What happens post what we used to value physical relationship with partners, but we've discovered that we can find other ways and other avenues of actually bringing partnership to a different level. We also need to change a lot of mindsets to retool and re-educate people and to know that we're just moving forward from now on. And if people are still hasn't jumped into the bandwagon, then they're a bit behind and they need a lot of catching up to do, because internationalization is not just going to stop for you. So you've got to jump into the bandwagon and start moving forward with what the international agenda is going to be all about. We have to improve technological infrastructure because we will be dependent on it. It will be a part of our university and it'll be an important part of our university. We have to understand that new ways of internationalization is required. And I do believe that research in internationalization need to be expanded as well. We need to have people studying and exploring things and finding new ways and avenues of bringing our universities to a different level, especially in dealing what a changing world it's been. I've got to thank Prof. Dr. Muhammad Ismet for actually sharing Jane Knight's definition earlier on in internationalization. I would like to go and extend further with where Marginson has actually mentioned in 2020, that a successful reboot of higher education internationalization in a post-COVID-19 world requires revisions of goals and strategies, innovation in practice, and integration of higher education internationalization into core institutional missions. So international educators must plan and work towards new realities in the interest of local and global common goods. So requires a revisions of goals and strategies is an important part. We have to be very innovative in our practice, and we've got to see how things are changing and how we have to adapt to the new changes that will come in. Now, there were a lot of studies done in the past years. IAU did a study, and they talk about how student mobility is affected and partnership is affected during a COVID period. The European Universities Initiative Survey also discussed about how student mobility became and staff mobility became the most negatively affected by COVID-19. UNESCO study showed a dwindling number of inbound and outbound mobility students over the years. So we've got to actually look at what our institutions needs to do in terms of revisiting our internationalization strategies. So I'm just sharing and putting it into three categories here. The first is about the incorporation of technology and the new norms in internationalization activities. Secondly, is about maintaining partnership, establishing new networks, and ensuring global visibility at a time when you can just drift off and people forget about you or your university. You've got to maintain prominence and still be there. And thirdly, it's about reconceptualizing mobility programs and promoting international learning engagements. So I'm just putting it in these three simplified categories for discussion purposes, for us to know what we can do. Now, the first one is the incorporation of technology and the new norm. Yeah. So right now, we must make sure that everyone of us and we ourselves are moving into the new technology. So for example, this is a period where Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, WebEx are everyday words, okay? We've got to ensure that our people knows how to use these things. We must make sure that they are going a step further. Right now, there's a lot of technologies that's being used for you to understand things differently. So we have to go away the physical documents and start using Google Documents, Google Forms, and we start to work things on, Google Documents, Microsoft Words online, and trying to be more technological savvy in that part. We need to train our staff to come up with project management apps as well. For example, we've been working on Slack as a project management apps that we use, and that's been tremendous in a lot of some of the consultancy work that I've worked with, that we use that instead of just discussing things on WhatsApp, or emails, to have an apps to do it. We also need to ensure that all staffs are trained and are already ahead with regards to our academics, managers, executives, support staff. We need to give capacity building training to people. We need to create a tech-based project workflow. So everything we need to incorporate the new technology. We've got online forms. We need to have videos to campuses. We need to update our websites, We need to have Google shared drives for all of us. We need to have technological presence. We need to be visible online. So we're taking it as an extension of ourselves, that we're not just a physical campus, but we exist in this virtual realm. And what we noticed was that there was a bit of a lack of the professional image that we wanted to portray, and we needed to ensure that to be in place, because all this while we were just overly dependent on our physical presence without looking into the virtual representations of ourselves. So this needs to be very sleek. This needs to be world-class. This needs to be done extensively and incorporating all different parts of the university. Second one is on partnerships with regards to international universities, embassies, associations, and all our external partners that we have. So in terms of partnerships, this is the best time to revisit people, to check on changes in policies, ways of doing things, what's new in the market, to make that start, to make that first move, to ask people out. In a way, it's just like human life, to ask someone to go out on a date with. So you have to start calling up universities, emailing universities to say, hey, can we meet up? Can we discuss via Zoom, via Microsoft Teams, to make that first move, to check up on them? A lot of things have changed. We are still not aware of policies. I remember Japan is opening up their policy, opening up their country only in next month, if I'm not mistaken. It's good for us to contact our Japanese counterparts to ask with regards to the process and the progress with regards to sending our students or the partnerships that we want to have with them. I think it's important for us to know what's going on, to contact our partners in the Philippines, in Mexico, in the US, or in the UK. What has happened? What has changed? What can we do? Where are you at with regards to internationalization? Because who knows, right now people might be looking for virtual mobility, virtual exchange more. And it's time to talk with people, okay? That would be a great start. Great opportunity to expand network. So the online platform allows for virtual presence and meetings, and is the best time to also contact those that will have cost really expensive for us to travel to. So take the opportunity, and I know that you may have to work late at night to be talking to your friends in North America who may be in the morning, but I assure you it's worth it to start making that move, that initiative to, to make contacts with people. International associations. So UKM is very active with UMAP and AUN and UITED, and AUAP, among others to name. And we keep in touch with international associations. During a time of crisis, we discovered that we needed support. And at this period of time, you knew which associations were there to support you as well at that period of time to ensure continuity of university internationalization agenda. We believe that through this different forms of association that we've been partnered with, we are able to bring the university forward. We are able to work together as a team with partners across the world. It's a very challenging time to be working alone. And I've noticed this extensively. For example, in Malaysia, we have our International Directors Council, Jawatan Kuasa Pengarah Antarabangsa, where we work together as Malaysian public universities to sit together, to talk, to discuss, to work together as a team. And I think that's a very important thing for us to look at. We also need to understand the way forward of these associations. Some associations were very, very proactive. For example, UMAP introduced the virtual mobility programs. They introduced SDG programs via virtual exchange, and those via COIL. So those were exciting things to look at. So this is an important period of time, and it is important for us to have good friends, to have good people, good network to support with as well. Well, UPM has also done the webinar today. We discovered that webinar was really, really productive for us, where we organize and actively participate. And this is a point of time with webinar, we were able to put our experts as panelists. We were able to share it, to maintain visibility with our international partners and counterpart. We ensured that they were followers and there were new connections that were made through people who participated in our events. And we've worked closely over the years, for example, with ACAP and also with Toshiba International Foundation and also with NCKU Overseas Hub to actually organize this high quality webinar discussions where the discussions are very, very much on point with the current situation. We also explored the region. We also look at, instead of just looking people, in America or in Europe, We also started exploring the region within the ASEAN market to see what roles can we play. We look at our closest neighbor, we find areas of specialization, we try to look for collaborative work, and there's a lot of opportunities that we can do as well. And it's a lot easier in terms of time zones as well. We also discovered that it's important for us to conceptualize mobility programs. We look at opportunities and challenges that we can do, that we can go through, and we can uphold greater. So one of the ways is looking at whether we want to have virtual mobility or virtual exchange program, and also start to introduce concepts of collaborative online international learning to our new partners. And we find that it is important for us to have a collaboration to redefine and reconceptualize mobility. We believe physical mobility is very important, but we believe that virtual mobility, virtual exchange, COIL programs also fills in a gap within our student society, community. Those who can't afford it, this would be a great opportunity for them to explore. Some of the benefits of COIL and virtual exchange. I had the opportunity to be working with a Professor Keiko Ikeda from Kansai University, and we actually explored about the mapping and identification of virtual exchange within the ASEAN region. We felt that there's a lot of opportunity that we can, and to have a lot more collaborative work with universities within the region as well. So there's a lot of opportunities. It enhances intercultural competence of our students. We're preparing them towards becoming global citizens. We ensure global visibility of our universities to others, and we're strengthening digital literacy, among others, to be shared. So we've organized some virtual mobility programs. And again, the terminology has different meanings, and we've got such short time to be talking into detail of each of this. But we're looking at maybe offering virtual mobility as well, aside from virtual exchange, to even have basic cultural programs or chit-chat sessions or global classroom, or even a joint seminars with our international partners. This is some of what we're looking at for the new paradigm. There's a lot of exciting things happening, and this is some of the things that UKM is also looking into for the next year with our involvements. The roadmap on the ASEAN higher education space and 2025 had just been introduced. It's something interesting for us to look forward to and what we can play a role in. UMAP, ASEAN University Network, has been prominent associations that we've been working with over the years, and we do hope to expand further. We've got our JKPA that we value so much in terms of bringing Malaysia forward as a country. We've been working closely with our ministry through Education Malaysia and also through Education Malaysia Global Services. We're working with our counterparts, with Toshiba in Japan and also SIIEJ, the Summer Institute in Japan, hoping to get more research funds through Erasmus+. ISMA, an Indonesian concept that has been very, very exciting, that maybe other countries in the world could also learn from. We've got our AIMS program to look at. And each one of these is now taking a different way, a different move towards, a different way to move forward. And I think for University Kebangsaan Malaysia, we believe that being part of all this and many more is actually a way forward. And with that, I would like to end my presentation. I would just say that, in terms of moving forward, we've got to work as a team. We've got to learn new things, and we've got to start being creative and start venturing things out of the box. We could not look back anymore. We've only got new opportunities now, which also open up to new challenges, but we've got to move forward and feel confident with what we can offer to our university and also in the global arena. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Latif, for the enlightening session. So we have to be creative and need to adapt to these changes, especially in terms of the technology also. Yeah, we have to be fully equipped with the technology as well. We actually running out of time. So I would like to actually welcome our final panelist, Dr. Rampiakat. Right, Dr. Rampiakat received his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Chulalongkorn University and went on to obtain a master's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Minnesota, Minneapolis. He graduated from University of California at San Diego with PhD in electrical engineering. Dr. Ram started his early career in academic administration, began at the College of Management, Mahidol University, nearly 25 years ago, where he developed the very first international master's degree curriculum in electronic commerce management in Thailand. The program produced more than 70 graduates in its first 2 years. In addition to program management, he was also tasked with the development of a 5-year IT master plan as CMMU grew quickly to accommodate over 1,500 students in its subsequent years. During his tenure at CMU, he was also a member of the executive committee and established and led the CMMU Nakhon Sawat campus. In 2006, Dr. Ram relocated his family to the United States and began to work at the Vanderbilt University Medical School as part of the team leader of the Information Systems Group. His team was responsible for the development and implementation of many academic web applications that supported both learning and research activities. His last position at Vanderbilt University was a program director, academic informatics, which he helped VUSM transform its curriculum and deliveries that supported 6 core competencies of medical students using an individualized learning plan. Dr. Ram is currently Director of the Office International Affairs and Global Network at Chulalongkorn University, where he oversees and directs 3 divisions in support of the university's key strategies, such as future leaders, impactful research and innovation, and sustainability. His office is also responsible for international relations activities, academic exchange programs, student and staff mobilities, research and innovation promotions, and global network partnerships. Let us watch together the Chulalongkorn University corporate video.
Chulalongkorn University is Thailand's leading university, renowned among and accepted by international academic bodies and communities. This environmentally friendly university is situated in the heart of Bangkok and is surrounded by remarkable architectural structures. Founded in 1917 by King Rama VI, Chulalongkorn University was the country's first academic institution of higher education to offer undergraduate programs to Thai students. As a comprehensive university, we provide multidisciplinary areas of study in a total of 19 faculties, 7 schools, colleges and institutes combined, with 447 programs, of which 102 of them are international. We are employing over 8,100 staff and providing an education to more than 37,000 students. In keeping with the founder's vision to provide education and innovation to foster sustainable development, Chulalongkorn University has set at its strategic goals the development of our academic staff, researchers and students to become innovators of tomorrow, initiating research studies and new work that will benefit society and foster sustainable growth. The university has continually supported endeavors in research and innovative projects. Numerous research works by faculty members have been published and quoted at an international level. These pieces of research and innovations have been further developed and utilized in real situations in the private and the industrial sector. This may bring about solutions to the social problems of the country. With the impact of COVID-19, which has affected everyone's life, innovations derived from the research of Chula academic staff and researchers have played a significant role in helping health personnel, patients and the general public to cope with virus detection, disease prevention, treatment and the care of COVID-19 cases. Chulalongkorn University has initiated projects to provide academic services to the general public and has also offered social innovations and learning resource centers to its students and the Chula community in order to fulfill their limitless quest for learning. Under the Center of Learning Networks for the region, the university has also expanded opportunities for education and publicized its research works to the provinces, specifically in Nan Province and the Gangkhoi district of Saraburi Province. With more than 100 years of experience, Chulalongkorn University is ready to serve as the country's leading innovative university that aims to create a body of knowledge for Thai society to upgrade its standards so as to become recognized at the international level.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Rampia Kat from Chulalongkorn University, Thailand. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Professor Haspolina. It's really nice to be here. Let me just say a quick hello to all of our international audiences and also my co-panelists today. It's really a privilege for me to be here at this wonderful forum. Let me try to share my screen. Okay. There we go. All right. I hope everybody can see my screen now. So basically, I'd like to start by saying that it is a pleasure for me to be here today and actually to share with you some of the things that we're doing at Chulalongkorn University, which we call ourselves Chula in short. For those of you who are international audiences, you may not know about Thailand. So basically, our university is situated right in the center of Bangkok. Sometimes a lot of people call ourselves the city campus, which you can actually see in the picture that you can actually see the skyline of the Bangkok metropolitan area behind in the picture. And the picture you're looking at right now is basically the center of the university, where it's showing the main auditorium. So without further ado, let me just kind of jump into a little bit about the introduction of the Chulalongkorn University. We are the very first university established in Thailand, and that was about 105 years ago by our King Rama VI. And he gave us the name that is named after his father, King Rama V. Chulalongkorn is so basically the name of one of our kings. In terms of the staff and the students, we have about 5,000 staff altogether, operating staff, with about 3,000 faculty members working at Chulalongkorn University. And we accommodate at the moment about 37,000 students, more or less. And about 2/3 of them are actually undergrad students that are studying on our campus. The campus itself is actually occupying quite a large area, considered it's a city campus. So it occupies about 200 acres and very easily accessible by all sort of transportation convenience. Okay, Chula itself has about 20-something faculty or teaching units, whether it's schools, colleges, or institutes, which offer altogether combined about 400 degree programs. And out of that, about 100 of them are actually international programs, which are taught completely 100% in English. And with the current leadership team, the vision of the university is to be a leader in creating knowledge and innovation for a sustainable society. So basically, from that type of vision, we have derived our missions, or some people call it strategies, to be focused in the 3 areas. Okay, so first area is about creating future leaders. Second area is about promoting innovation and research that are impactful to the sustainable society, which is basically the focus of the third areas. Okay, and in order to do that, a lot of times we have to find a way to benchmark ourselves. Okay, and so with those 3 strategies in mind, we have adopted the QS World Ranking and also THE Impact Rankings that focus more on the sustainability and SDGs, to sort of like using it as a mirrors, okay, to look at how we are doing when we're comparing to, or when we're benchmarking ourselves. So currently, Chulalongkorn University is ranked about 200 24th in the global communities. We're ranked number 1 in Thailand and ranked number 8 in the ASEAN region. Okay, and with the THE impact rankings, we're number 16 in the world at the moment, with a focus in some of the areas like SDG 17, SDG 3, 15, 9, and 14, along with some other SDGs that we are trying to work ourselves in those areas. Okay. Now, in order to support the university missions and strategies, which are basically future leaders, impactful research and innovation, and sustainability, at the Office of International Affairs, we try to restructure ourselves so that we can actually align and to be able to support the strategies set out by the leadership team of the current leadership team. So as you can see on the right-hand side, we're actually consist of 3 main divisions, and each divisions are actually oriented or aligned with the strategies on the left-hand side. So you could actually see the color matching between the division and the strategies of the universities. Okay, so for example, we set out, we create the division of the Global Academic Affairs. We have the Global Research Innovation Promotion Division and the Global Networking and Engagement that are basically set up to support activities and strategies on the left-hand side. And the 3 divisions are also supported by 2 small groups of staff that are also providing administrative support and support some of the strategies that are set up by the office itself. The whole office is actually only have about 28 people altogether working at the moment. Okay. So as far as the internationalization strategies or objectives concerned, with the emerging, with the university emerging out from the COVID pandemic, so we said we've done some restocking, and then we also looked at or reviewed some of the objectives that we have before the COVID hits us. And so we decided that we're going to focus more on some of these things. For example, increase the international number of students and staff, and also increase the number of exchange students, as well as strengthening international collaboration with strategic partners, and also to work on enhancing the international ecosystem at the university level. To be honest with you, we have to admit that Chula is struggling when it comes to growing the number of the international students. And that has been some of the obstacles and struggles, issues, not just for Chula, but for the universities in Thailand and overall, okay? And that could be one of the barriers is basically the languages that we're using that are, we still have problems with English literacy for most of the people who lives in Thailand, okay? Even though we have come a long way in terms of improving that, but I think that's one of the reasons why we're still struggling in that area, okay? Now, for some of the activities that we have set out for, and then we have also conducted in the past few months, that has been changed or has been created to support the 4 bullet points that are basically set out as the objectives is, for example, the open houses for international programs that we're trying to promote it to the international students, to recruit more international students to come to Chulalongkorn University. We're also trying to create more summer and short-term programs that are a little bit more innovative in a way, in such a way that it's not going to be just Chula that are actually hosting the students who participate in the program. And I'll talk more about that in the next slide or so, okay? So there are a couple of things that we have set up for to do this year, especially in the next 12 months, that we'd like to focus on, and I'm gonna pick on some of these to share with you about some of those projects and activities that we're gonna be doing. But just to give you some information, kind of generate information about how we're doing in terms of the international collaboration. At the moment, Chulalongkorn University has about almost 1,000 collaborations all over the world, with about 500 universities worldwide and from 56 countries. Okay. And those are spread out all over the world based upon the regions. Obviously, we do have a lot of collaborations in the Asian region. We do have quite a few in Europe, and then followed by North America. Okay. As far as the mobility goes, these are some of the numbers I'd like to share with you. They are not as even as we would like it to be. So you can actually notice that we have about 3,000 inbound students coming in. We only have about 2,000 students going out, which some of the things that we'd like to work on in this coming months is that we'd like to see how we can actually increase the number of the both inbound and outbound students and try to even that out a little bit more. So at the moment, we do have quite a few programs that we're working on in terms of promoting student mobilities within our campus. And those are some of the programs are like AIMS, EU Share, Erasmus Plus, AC Uninet, all those type of things. And some of the programs are actually funded or supported by government agencies, whether it's from Japan or Canada, or even Singapore, our close neighborhoods, okay? And the number you see on the screen right now are actually some of the mobilities that we have going on with about close to 1,000 universities in the 65 countries on a global scale, okay? Again, a lot of activities are actually happens in the Asian region and Europe countries because we do have quite a few partners coming from Europe, okay, and quite a few in North America areas as well. Okay, now let's look at some of the things that we have done in response to when the COVID-19 hits us in the past 2 years. So some of the panelists already mentioned about COIL program, for example, and this is another example of how we actually adapt ourselves to try to find some of the things that can still promote student exchange and student mobilities. Or you could also say that it also supports the strategies in internationalization at home, because basically traveling is very limited and restricted in the past 2 years. And so we managed to team up with CUHK, Chinese University of Hong Kong, and then participating in what we call the Virtual Student Exchange Program. So the program was created about 2 years ago after the first semester when the COVID started hitting most of the countries in the world, okay? And you could actually see that the number actually developed and start growing as the pandemic continues to basically cover the entire world. And then once the most of the countries start emerging out from the COVID-19 pandemic, then naturally we start seeing a drop in terms of the virtual student exchange program, because it looks like students are still preferred to be able to travel and be immersed in that kind of environment where we can have multicultural interaction among the students themselves. So that's one of the things that we're actually monitoring and see how that's going to go. And it could be one of the things that we would eventually find that, that things will be going in parallel, whether it's going to be virtual student exchange or it's going to be back to the sort of like a new normal type of mobility programs that we could actually be a little bit innovative in a way. Okay. Now, the other thing that we're trying heavily to promote is that we try to increase the number of international students. And so one of the things that we've tried to do is to put the open house program online so that international students, no matter where they are, can actually participate in our open house program or events, in which usually when we do open house, we usually do it on site. And tentatively set for international students who are actually already in Thailand at the time, participating in an international school, or maybe part of the student from the expats communities. But the shift is now actually focused more on the students from actually overseas, so that they can actually learn more about the international programs that we have to offer at Chula. Okay, and we also look into or investigating, exploring of how we can actually embed our open house into the multiverse environment. So that's actually our last open house was actually done and conducted in the sort of like in the metaverse environment where students can actually immerse themselves in the metaverse platform and participating in our open house program. Okay. The other thing that we're doing constantly is actually to support the future leader strategies is to actually send the students and allow them to participate more in the international conference, competitions, or any opportunities for them to show off their talents in the global communities. So these are some of the examples that we're trying to support and fund our students and promote them as part of the Global Citizen program. Okay. Now, the other thing that I just mentioned earlier is that we have to be a little bit more creative in a way that how we can actually promote internationalization at home, or even to bring in more students to participate on our campus. And so we are currently developing what we call a joint summer or short-term programs that we're actually partnering up with some other university in the Southeast Asian regions. So the last activities that we have done is that we have invited a few partners to explore this opportunity together. The idea is for students in the European countries or from the North American countries, if they are participating in this program, they would get to spend their time maybe about a week in each of the country of our partner university. So for example, when they're joining up into this program, they may get to spend a week in Thailand at Chula, and then they will get spend another week in at NTU in Singapore, or maybe in Hokkaido University in Japan, for example. So that's kind of what we're trying to create, some program that we think would be attractive to the students, that would allow them to explore more opportunities in some of the country in the Southeast Asian country. So so that's another thing that we're trying to coming up with in the next couple of months. Okay. Now, the other thing that my office is also responsible for is to support how to help our faculty member and researchers. Instead of having the research putting up onto the shelf after they create a publications and so on and so forth, we're trying to convert and try to commercialize that inventions into some commercial products. And so we set up these mechanisms called Inform, Advise, Connect, and that's led by one of the divisions in my office, to try to help our faculty members to be able to connect with the international partners and to actually grow or expand their opportunities in terms of research, and going through some of the commercialization activities through one of the units at Chula called CU Innovation Hub, for example. Okay, so there are some other activities that we're trying to bring in international funding to support our faculty, help them grow their research, help them expand their territories in terms of research opportunities and things like that. Okay. The other thing that we also do is we actually come up with the funding to actually help some of our sort of like top tier researchers and faculty members to have an opportunity to go and look for partners in the overseas. So we set up a couple of trips. For example, in the past 6 months, we have been able and fortunate enough to bring some of our top researchers and faculty members to talk to some top university in UK, in France, in Japan, for example. And what you're seeing on the slide here is one example of the UK trip that we set up together to promote the research in the area of biocircular green technologies, which is one of the key things that that Thailand is trying to promote as part of its BCG economy. Okay. Some other things that we also do at the office when it comes to partnership and collaboration is that we have the third division, global networking and engagement, that takes care of the collaboration and partnerships with our partner university overseas. And by that, we also participating in quite a few, what we call a strategic network, for example, AUA, the Asian University Alliances, or ASEAN University Network, AUN, or the Association of Pacific Rim University, or APRU. Okay, so these are some of the, among some other networks that we actually put a lot of efforts in terms of participating, co-creating programs and projects that we're trying to do with our overseas partners. The area on the lower left corner are some other partner network that we're actually participating, whether it's in AUAP, ASEAN, STS, UNESCO chairs. So the idea is to actually put Chula in the global visibilities and be able to collaborate and partner with some top university worldwide. Okay. And here's an example of another opportunities that we're also trying to push for is that because we have been working closely with the United Nations and also UNESCO. So we were able to put Chula as one of the UNESCO chair for resource governance and futures literacy, which we deem are a future for our future leaders to be one of the global citizens. And so, and with a focus on SDGs and the future literacy, which is going to be after 2030, which is going to be one of the focuses that UN is going to be focused on. So Chula has put the effort and the resources behind this to become one of the leaders in this area, okay? So, and as of April this year, we've been appointed by UNESCO to be the chair of the resource governance and future literacy. And underneath that umbrella, we've tried to create a lot of opportunities for our faculty members, students, and our overseas partners to do something together and co-create some of the important topics and subjects that can actually influence the public policies issues as well. Okay. So that's another example. And here's another example I'd like to show you in terms of how do we co-create and focus on sustainability and SDGs. So again, this is part of the activities that Chula has led and proposed to the partner university in the APRU network. And we decided to create a program or a short course. It could be credit-bearing courses as well, in which students from the APRU network universities can actually participate and learn more about, SDGs subjects. And the theme for this very first pilot program is going to be shaping the future of health and well-being, in which we're planning or aiming to have about 60 students from diverse culture and diverse economies to actually work together interactively online, to try to solve some of the SDG challenges under each local context, okay? And towards the end of the program, we're going to have a pitching competitions among all of these students that are going to be divided into groups working together. And the award-winning team will get to spend some time at Chula and learning more about our SDGs initiatives and working with our CU Innovation Hub and go through our incubating processes and see if we can actually develop some of the new startups out of these people. So that's some of the things that we're trying to do and trying to promote as part of the internationalization strategies as well. Okay, so I hope that's kind of gives you a glimpse of some of the things that we're actually doing, some of the practices that I'd like to share with you as part of our internationalization strategies. Okay, and thank you very much for that. Okay, and for that, let me turn it back to our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ram. And thank you to all panelists for the insightful presentations. We are just very fortunate to have been joined by our esteemed panelists for our session today. I hope that you all receive a lot of useful input from all of the panelists. And we will now begin the Q&A session. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask, you can write in the chat box. So before we start taking on the questions from the audience, I would like to pose some questions to our panelists. Maybe I would like to direct our first questions to our panelists. About this SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, yeah. So the SDG number 4 is about the quality education. This is to ensure the inclusive and also equitable quality education and to promote the lifelong learning opportunities for all. So does your university provide support to your students from disadvantaged backgrounds? Such as from the low-income family or disability students, if they want to pursue their mobility program abroad, for example, physical or virtual. So yeah, maybe we can start with our first speaker, Dr. Ismit.
Hi, hello.
Yeah.
Question was about funding.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I think in UTM we do put priority for the students from the lower income bracket, so called as the B40 students. We target them for those mobility programs that are fully funded. So we encourage them to participate in the mobility programs, especially those who are fully funded. And at the same time, we also have funding from UTM, but this varies from year to year, depending on the funding of the university. But if funding is available, then the students from the low income bracket would be given the priority.
So in terms of the percentage, you have sort of numbers?
I do not have the numbers yet
no.
for now, not offhand. I'm sorry about that. But I do know that yes, the priority is given to them.
How about in Turkey, Prof. Dr. Bulan?
Well, as far as the tuitions concerned, our students pay very little amount of tuitions. So for per year, I can say around $250 per year. So tuition is not a big issue as far as the international students are concerned. We don't have a specific program for low incomes since our tuition rates is not that high. However, what we do have is we have through our university funding, we have give stipends to the students if they are involved in the projects funded by our university. That's for sure. Also funded by our national institutions. So what we do, we try to provide them, as far as the funding purposes, through these projects. Apart from that, what we do for disabled or accessibility issue students, we are a accessible university in terms of both physical accessibility and as far as through the online opportunities, physical and education accessibility. So we provide students with those, and we actually were awarded an award from that in Turkey through the accessibility issues, especially the physical accessibility part. So maybe for now I can say this, okay?
Yeah, because some of the students with disabilities to join Erasmus program, for example. And so this is also the priority that normally we look into for
Correct.
that, yes, to have the same chance as the students, other students, to go abroad.
Right. I mean, I understood your questions for the students that come into our university. The other, because as you know, the fund is provided with the sending university through the Erasmus program. So when we send our students with the Erasmus program, we provide priority to the disability students, to the students with the disabilities. So they have an extra amount of points, and they also get funded with their together with their, if they need, companies. So if they need a special assistant for their disability, so the Erasmus program funds those as well. But however, those parts, the students that are already here, and then we send it abroad, right?
Dr. Latif, you would like to add?
Yeah,
Yeah.
rather similar answers as well, Prof. Has. University Kebangsaan Malaysia offers some funding for students to attend. Yes, we do also offer priority to B40 students, students who need assistance. We've also got some fundings from ministry, especially for AIMS programs, within ASEAN and also Japan and Korea. We also get information through our associations. For example, for short-term mobility programs, some universities may be offering some, like a fee reduction or a fee waiver through our partnership association or discounted items. So those things help in some way, like being part of UMAP, for example, we're able to get a bit of scholarship to fund for our super short-term programs that we send our students for. Aside from that, we, places like Macy, they will, and Canada, for example, the SEED program, there could be some allocation that's available for your students. I think what we can do is to try point students to the directions of what are the opportunities that's being offered for them to be able to be involved in the mobility programs. Aside from that, from all these other ways, there are also ways that's not just monetary in some way. For example, we negotiate and work on ways where the university could sponsor the accommodation. For example, the hosting university, like for example, we work with John Book University in Korea. They are able to fund accommodation for our students. And every way counts in terms of having the opportunity to, to give to our students. Yeah, thank you.
So it's not just funding, but also in terms of the facility, to facilitate disabled students, for example. There are the facilities that need to be provided. So how about in Thailand?
Right. So I think the situation at Chula are very similar to some other universities but first of all, let me just mention that Chulalongkorn University is a public university, and so our tuition fee is not very expensive, and because it's basically pretty much controlled by the government already. But the other thing is we do have quite a few funding schemes that actually can provide financial support to the students. And of course, disadvantaged students or students with disadvantaged backgrounds would be top priorities already. But in addition to the university scholarship or funding or financial aids, they could always seek help from the government, because the government also provides quite a few scholarship opportunities and financial aids to those students are in need as well. Okay, and so usually as part of the sort of like information that we're providing to the students, we usually included a way to find or to seek financial help or financial support as well. Now, when it comes to disadvantage in terms of the physical handicaps, okay, Chula is also one of the universities that have pledged to provide support to disadvantaged or handicapped students as well. So most of our physical properties and accesses are actually provided to handicapped students as well. Yes.
Yeah, I think we already have. I just would like to share one of the questions also from the participants, but it's more about the scholarship. Is there any scholarship provided for the postgraduate, maybe in Malaysia and also in other country? Yeah, so it's not just, this is for international scholarship. Do we provide any international scholarship for the student for the postgraduate, master or PhD? I think it's about money again. So Dr. Ismail, yes, right? We do provide,
Yeah, I think scholarship is available, but
yes.
I believe it is limited though.
Mm-hmm.
But many of our international students do get scholarships. I'm not saying that all of them, but that scholarship is available, but it depends on, its availability, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for international students, what they do first is they inquire at the postgraduate office. That would be the easier way to get information about scholarship.
Yeah. So the questions from Bayo Mane from Gambia, currently international student, bachelor degree in Syiah Kuala University, Indonesia. So maybe is interested to continue a master degree. Yeah, so basically, we have all the information about the scholarship in our website as well, and it's also based on the what we call certain amount, of the fundings provided for the international students. So all the informations actually can look into the website of the postgraduate office. So I think similar to UKM, right? We have the fundings for the international students for the postgraduate. Right. Actually, we are running out of time. It's 10 past 5. I think we can have one more questions. I would like to ask the opinion from all the panelists about the digital transformation in the education sector. Do you think that our system is ready to adapt in terms of the 5G, 6G, especially for the learning experiences, such as you have to get interactive labs, hands-on experiments, and also calculations? Is it suitable to have digital transformation for all aspects of the learning process? Maybe we can start with, Prof? Yeah. Because you are in the, yes, that's your expertise, yeah? 5G, 6G?
Right. So I would like to start with what everyone knows. So basically, through the pandemic, we found ourselves in the middle of online learning system, and most of us were not really ready for those online learning systems. So we experienced bad and good sides of online learning systems. So my personal experience was that the online learning system just by itself it definitely will not cover for the in-class learning system. So it can be used for supportive purposes. However, it provides lots of opportunities, and then it's definitely necessary to use the good sides of these online education system. Learning analytics is very important. Through learning analytics, what I mean by learning analytics, a system will need to follow up the student and then try to teach them whatever is missing from his or her personal teaching experience throughout the course. So a system needs to follow up that student and then send learning material through the online system, not by using the instructor, through the online system again and again until he or she learns. So this, at our university, we started a study on that. So what we are trying to do to establish this learning system, and then with the artificial intelligence, so that it can guess how a student can learn. But this is a long process. So hopefully we will be implementing this in very near future, but it's a long process. As far as the 5G and 6G part, the main things with 5G and fifth generation and sixth generation technologies, especially with the sixth generation, it will decrease the latency and it will increase the bandwidth capacity. So it will be possible to do hands-on experiments without actually being on the lab. So you can work on a patient without actually being over there. So those kind of experiences will be important, and 5G and 6G technology especially will make it possible to be able to do hands-on experience without actually physically being over there. And that's why it's going to be very important. And there are many opportunities that's going to be coming with those technologies. But as far as the education purposes, I can state those. Maybe, yeah, that's all I can say right now.
We hope for the better future. Yeah. So, yeah, Dr. Ram, is there also the similar situation in Thailand? How in terms of adaptation of the
Right.
yes.
So, I mean, I think currently what we're exploring at Chula is actually some of the things like how we can actually blend metaverse, AR, VR into the learning or in a classroom environment. Just this morning before this forum, I was actually participating in one of the webinar that was conducted at the CUSK, and they were talking about implementing VR or virtual reality as part of that classroom learning experience. Okay, so it's very intriguing, very interesting. And our faculty of engineering is actually kind of pioneering or spearheading that type of experiment at the moment. But the other thing about the online learning is that I think it comes into two flavors if you talk about it. If you think about it, there are one flavor is actually for online learning to take place in a very limited mobility. So like in the actual physical space, where bandwidth and speed and transmission rate is not quite a problem. But in the other flavor is that when it needs to come with mobility, and that is when 5Gs and 6Gs plays a significant role in terms of enabling that type of learning with a full mobility for the students or learners to actually to have. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Any points you would like to add, Dr. Latif or Dr. Ismail, on digital transformation? How about in Malaysia?
I think both panelists have been
Yeah.
extensively, and I've been repeating what they say. But over in Malaysia as well, over the years, we've also seen the involvement of the industry to assist by providing, for example, access to Wi-Fi and also data plans for students to assist them with regards to getting access to online materials and online learning as a whole. So I think that is an interesting thing that's happening, and we value that, having the support. And we've always talked about working together as a team. Having industry to assist us is also an important part for us to move forward together.
Right. Yeah, I would like to take one more questions from the participants. Mr. Shafat Shabir. The question is how we can start an offshore campus by mutual cooperation of the countries. I think this will also generate revenue and will exchange student and faculty. So maybe you would like to start, Dr. Ismail?
Pardon again? Sorry, I was just having power problems here.
How we can start an offshore campus by mutual cooperation of the countries? Because this is also suggestions, yeah?
Yeah, an offshore campus, I think that requires a lot of commitment. We do have sort of like an offshore campus in Kaiwan, in Kurdistan. And it looks good if you have one. It feels good if you have one, but it does take quite a bit of commitment to sustain one. And that's fresh from our experience. So I think you need to get a good partner, and it's good to start small before you grow any bigger, because there are really things that you out of control at the moment, and the quality is also something that sometimes people question about the quality too. So I would say that yes, it's good. It can propel university to the next level of internationalization, but sustaining offshore campus would be the main thing. So if a university is ready to do that and you have the right partner to do so, then I think you can move in that direction. But until then, there's a lot of commitment that you have to think about. For Malaysian universities, I'm talking about Malaysian. I'm not sure about other countries. They might have better facilities, better resources. But for us, I think, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of sustainability, right?
Yes.
The numbers and also the quality.
Exactly. Setting it up can be something simple or easier, but sustaining it is the issue.
Prof, you would like to add? What is the situation in your university? You also provide any offshore campus? Do you have any?
Well, I think there's nothing much to add. I mean, the Professor Ismaili stated all the problems. It's very hard to sustain an offshore campus.
How about, Dr. Ram in Thailand?
Well, I would say that having a presence offshore or a branch campus is quite a strategic decision, in the level of the university leadership. And I would say that at Chula, it is not among the top priorities at the moment. I think we tend to focus on some other things that are we do send students out. We do take initiatives in embedding students on some other, like in the startup programs, for example, that type of things. But establishing the presence overseas is not quite a priority at the moment, I would say.
In UKM, Dr. Latif, you would like to share your...
Agreeable is a strategic move to do that. And it's going to take a lot of commitment. It's also, it starts off, I think it's usually involving ministries. And it depends on the countries that you're going to, you're exploring to. It might be different. You have to understand policies and regulations of each country. You've also got to learn things about autonomy, in terms of stakeholdership and all that. So there's a lot of negotiations to take place prior. That's the beginning. And after that, it'll be still about sustainability, as what Prof. Ismail had mentioned. So, it's a lot of thought process, but it is a very strategic, I would have to agree.
Okay, at moment we have one more questions about mock courses. We do have actually, mock courses. The question is from Abhishek Pandey to all the panels. It's also, has been also mentioned by Dr. Ram. They also have the COIL, which is also very not similar, but then we have this actually to encourage the international student to join in one class. So you have this as the online learning process actually, but you have it the international students to join in one class. Is that the same approach in Chula as well, Dr. Ram?
Yes, right. So we're participating in what we call the virtual student exchange program that actually allows students to actually be part of the multicultural environment learning experience without having to actually leave home or leave the country. So that is part of the things that we're doing. And I think I mentioned about the SDG for education for global citizenship. That's another similar program that actually allows students from from all over the world to actually participate and interact together, form a team, work together on the problems, and present them as a team. Yeah.
Similar
that's completely
in
online.
UKM, yeah, because Dr. Latif also mentioned on the coil, yeah. So, yeah, I think we actually not have enough time to extend our Q&A. So I really enjoy, yeah, with our such great conversation that we have had here today. I've learned a lot from the discussion points of view shared by our panelists. And I would love to wrap up further as we are approaching to the end of this webinar. Despite of the high turbulence of the global health crisis and many challenges due to COVID, we can see that internationalization efforts emerging around the globe in different strategies and initiatives. The importance of networking and also collaboration between our universities in Turkey, Thailand and Malaysia should be continued for a better future. So I would like to wish and give deepest thanks to our panelists for sharing your insights on the internationalization of higher education. We hope that our friendship will continue on after this. To end this, I must say thank you again, Tasakullah and Kapkun to all. I will pass back to Ras.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we ending our webinar today, we would like to take opportunity to get a virtual photo of our panelists. Dear panelists, kindly smile at the camera and say cheese. Say cheese! Okay, thank you all for the cooperation. It is a... one more time, okay? Say cheese!
Cheese!
Thank you. It is a very great pleasure to thank everyone here, especially our distinguished panelists, for such an inspiring and valuable insights shared during the session. I would also like to take this opportunity to convey my gratitude to all Secretariat members of their efforts throughout this webinar. I would like to remind you to fill in the Google form if you have yet to do so for attendance and e-certificate purpose. You will receive e-certificate by email. For your information, it will be much appreciated if you could leave a feedback by scanning QR code at the end of this webinar, or the link can be accessed at the chat box. It is a very great sharing of best practices from everyone. I personally learned so much from today's session. I appreciate very much your commitment, interest, and participation in the discussion. If you have any additional questions, please contact intl@upm.edu.my. On behalf of University Putra Malaysia and our presenters, thank you for joining us today. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.